Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the El Cajon City Council meeting. The meeting is called to order, and I'd like to ask for the city clerk to please call the roll.
All council members are present.
Thank you. Would you all please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a brief moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, the city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the April 25th, 2023 meeting and the agenda of the May 9th, 2023 meeting in accordance with state law, city council, and housing authority policy. We have three presentations on today's agenda. We have a proclamation for Municipal Clerks Week, which I will read, but first, City Manager Mitchell will tell us all about this.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I had a chance to attend a city clerks conference. Yes, those exist. And what I discovered is that city clerks, there's a certain type of person that is attracted to the city clerk profession. And I'll tell you the type of person that they are. They don't like to brag. That's who is, they're very dutiful. They want to help people. But the last thing they want to do is brag, unlike some of our staff, right? And so Angela was very wary when I suggested that we recognize not only her but her staff as part of Municipal Clerks Week, which is last week, by the way. But I just wanted to let the council know that they do a lot more beneath what you see. You see sort of the duck, but there's a lot of legs pushing around to make all the water churn. She makes all this happen, not only Angela, but her whole team. So I just wanted to recognize her and her team, and I wanted to give her just a moment to share some of the things that her office does that maybe the public is unaware of.
Angela, did you want to give a speech?
Absolutely.
I think she needs to give a speech. Okay.
Thank you, Graham. Mayor and council members, I do like to brag. I have an amazing team, and I'm really proud to introduce you to them. And I'm going to start with our newest team member. This is Megan. Yeah, Megan Roberts. She's very nervous. I think I might have her do a speech. She has been with us for just under 2 months, and she is actually doing a great job. She spends her day booking and processing passports. And we started passport processing back in May of 2022, and we are this close to having processed 2,000 applications. So we're doing a really good job with that. Next, we have Management Assistant Judy Gonzalez. Her specialty is public record request, and that is a big job. And we do have to give credit to the other departments who provide us the information we need to submit to those asking for it. Last year, she processed over 700 requests. This year, she's already at over 300 requests, and some of those are thousands of pages that she needs to review and then provide to whoever's asking for them. And Judy has been with the city for over 18 years, and with the city clerk's office just a little over a year. So we're a very new team. And lastly, we have Deputy City Clerk Jen Janser. You are familiar with Jen as she has clerked a couple meetings. Jen helps prepare agendas for city council meetings, process city contracts prepared by the purchasing and city attorney departments. And we get to meet everyone coming to work with the city because we get to do their oath of office. And of course, every other year we facilitate municipal elections. We are the city's official record keeper, which include minutes, resolutions, and ordinances. We facilitate recruitments for the different boards and commissions. We send you friendly reminders about FPPC filings and 700 forms and a few other things. But in a nutshell, this is a team that works for you, that works for our citizens, and I'm really grateful for the team I have. Thank you.
So the responsibility for passports is a fairly new thing, right?
It is. We used to do them years and years ago, and we stopped. We didn't have staff, and then COVID and all that, but then we came back, and I think we could have another full-time person doing passports all day long, but...
Well, welcome to the team.
Yes. Thank you very much.
So I've got something to read here. Whereas the office of the municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants, this office, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists in cities throughout the world. Municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And whereas the office of the municipal clerk provides the professional link between the residents and the local governing bodies and agencies of government at other levels, and serves as the information center on functions of local government and community, and whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations, and whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the municipal clerk. Now, therefore, I, Bill Wells, Mayor of the City of El Cajon, together with the City Council, do hereby proclaim April 13th through May 6th, 2023 to be Municipal Clerks Week in the City of El Cajon, and encourage our residents to applaud and acknowledge the accomplishments of the office of the municipal clerk. We further extend our sincere appreciation to our own city clerk, Angela Cortez, and her staff for the vital services that they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. Signed this 9th day of May, 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, ladies.
Next, Parks and Recreation Services Manager Heather Carter will accept the proclamation for Water Safety and Drowning Prevention Month, and she will share more about this with us before I read the proclamation. Hi, Heather.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. I'm actually going to introduce our aquatics supervisor, Dominic, here, and then we also have our head lifeguard who just started with us a month or two ago, Annie Hildebrand, and they have a short presentation right before the proclamation.
Good afternoon, council members and city manager. Let's get this going. So again, my name is Dominic Mangiapane. I'm your supervisor of the Fletcher Hills Center and Pool. And this is our brand new Annie Hildebrand, our head lifeguard. I'm looking forward to working with her. She brings a lot of experience, which I think will be very beneficial to City of El Cajon. The May is our water safety month. We usually kick it off in April because May, being Water Safety Month, we try to bring recognition to the fact that drowning is the second leading cause of death for children under the ages of 1 to 14. It is second behind congenital birth defects for 1 to 4 and behind car accidents for under 18 years old. April Pools Day, which we hosted a few weeks ago, which was on Friday, we used it as a kickoff to use May as our educational time. We have multiple cities and private agencies that participate in this type of event, so we all run our own spin on it. We partner with Safe Kids Worldwide. If you're not aware, they are a great agency that cover safe practices for children, anything from aquatics to baby-proofing your home. And then along with that, we have the San Diego County Aquatic Council. And that is a council of different municipalities as well as private agencies that we all collaboratively work together on different trainings and just really helping each other out and trying to pool our resources. I'm actually in the middle of a 2-year term for the Aquatic Council. I'm your president-elect, and then come May, I'll be switching over to the full president for the next year. This council also collaborates with an awesome entity. I'm going to call him out. Our Park and Rec director, Frank Carson, started the WSI Blowout, which usually trains around 60 water safety instructors every year over Memorial Day weekend. It's long and it's an intense 4 days, but it's a great way for us to give back to the community and get ready for summer, being that we are a coastal city. Our April Pools Day event this year was on April 21st, and it was a free event. No registration was needed. We had just under about 100 people. We gave away safety swag bags, which was full of different activities, adult information, our safety stations. We had reach and throw. We had a CPR station, and then as well as like sun safety and free giveaways. Lots and lots of sunscreen was given out that day. We also had a free open swim for the entire event. And we were lucky enough to have not only Heartland Fire, but also AMR came out with their own ambulance. And so we had kind of both the firefighters as well as paramedics. So our contribution to water safety is a lot with our 6-month operation for our aquatics. We have 218 registered activities between April to October. And this was for just 2022. We had almost 2,000 participants, which was up from 1,400 in 2021. We had one junior lifeguard class. We had about 20 parent tots, almost 100 group lessons for the ages over 6. And then we also had a little over 100 lessons for the 3 to 5-year-olds, which is preschool aquatics. We had 65 private swim lessons, 6 swim team sessions, 8 water aerobic sessions. We also participated in the world's largest swim lesson, which is a worldwide event where we all teach, different cities all teach water safety for different ages. So everything from as low as, making sure that children know not to go in the water without an adult, to the older kids who can learn to correct themselves in the water and make their way to safety. Thanks to Councilmember Goebel, we have our Dollar Days initiative where we had our Camp Cajon, which is we hosted swim lessons for the Cajon Valley School District as well as the Johnson Elementary School program, and we hosted 213 free swimming lessons for 213 participants. As you can see here, this is one of our pictures. We had the Dollar Day initiative. We offered $5 swim lessons. We had approximately 1,200 registered residents inside Incorporated El Cajon. Camp Cajon itself covered Johnson Elementary, Madison, and Magnolia Elementary schools. So we had various ages between 6 to 11 with about 76 participants between those 3 schools. And then Johnson Elementary was in September and October, and they covered just their 4th graders for about 140 participants. And with that, on top of our Dollar Day initiative with doing physical drowning prevention and education, we are also trying to branch out and give the adults education as to what drowning looks like and what their responsibilities are around the water. So for that, I'm going to turn it over to Annie for our drowning.
So, as mentioned before, it is super important for us to teach the children as well as adults about safety in the water and around the water. So drowning prevention is one of those main things because prevention will help mitigate as many cases of drowning as we can. And so in order to have parents and children alike be aware of that, it's important for everyone to know what drowning looks like. A lot of people are familiar with a distressed swimmer, which is when children are able to call out for help, let everyone know that they are in distress, that they need some assistance. But if a child is really drowning, they might not be as loud and flamboyant. They can typically be pretty quiet. Their eyes might be a little panicked or glossy. And so in that case, they're more vertical in the water. They're not swimming, they're making no forward progress. And so progress is really the big thing with that because they might be moving, but they're making no progress towards their end goal, which might be the side of the pool, a parent's arm, a child next to them, anyone around them who might be able to give some assistance. So it's super important to be able to see what that is in the pool. With the combined arm and leg action, they might not be going exactly where they need to be. So if the child looks like they're in a little bit of a predicament, they definitely need some help. Being vigilant around the water, making sure that you have someone designated to watch the water area wherever you are is something that we often try to teach. So maybe they're at grandma's pool or mom and dad's house, and that's a little different than our pool. So the water depth might be different. They might be in a different area. So we just want to make sure they know the rules about all types of water environments. We also have the beach pretty close, so it's super important for us to teach about all kinds of water safety. Having a designated water watcher, someone to look after the kids in the pool, really helps with that. So we try to teach that a lot at our different events, making sure that someone is always around the water. Children should never be left alone, all of those kinds of things. We also teach at our swim lessons that if children see something, they should definitely say something. They should never be afraid to call out for help for someone who may need it or might need some assistance with that. We're also looking to take lots of rest breaks. Children don't typically know when they've overexerted themselves, so when they're super tired in the water, they might not be willing to ask for a break. So that's why it's important to implement those kinds of rest breaks, bathroom breaks, all that kind of stuff, not only at swim lessons or at the pool, but at home as well. So we try to teach that to parents and kids alike. That way everyone's able to practice that in the pool and outside of our pool at home too.
All right. Do you have any questions for Dominic or Annie on Water Safety Month or drowning prevention?
Any questions? Go ahead.
Not a question, just a quick comment. Thank you for doing this. I think it's hyper important. As Annie said, drownings are silent, but they happen in seconds as well. I mean, you turn your back to a kid. I was a lifeguard in a previous life years ago. I actually still have my water watcher lanyard that you gave us last year. And we actually use it at our friends' houses when we have parties with all the kids. It's chaotic with kids running around and multiple parents. And just because you have a dozen parents out in the backyard doesn't mean someone's actually watching the water and counting heads. And so thank you for doing this. Don't stop doing it. It's vitally important to make sure we don't have any accidents in our backyards.
And
Well-
we do have Water Watcher cards available at Fletcher Hills Pool if anyone would like one. They're free. A lot of the fire stations, I believe, have them as well.
That's great. Well, I have a proclamation for you, and I'll read it for everybody. Whereas May, as Water Safety and Drowning Prevention Month, was established through a collaborative effort across the country to promote water safety and drowning prevention. Each year, drowning incidents result in hundreds of emergency room visits, including hospital stays and potential life-altering and permanent disabilities of California residents and visitors. And whereas the California Department of Public Health reports that between 2016 and 2021, 2,559 California residents died from drowning, and 1,168 were hospitalized, and 5,854 were treated in an emergency department for non-fatal drowning. The City of El Cajon acknowledges the launch of the California Water Safety Strategy, which highlights knowledge gaps, major priorities, and action areas where focus is required to reduce the burden of drowning across the state. And whereas the City of El Cajon has its own considerations and context for drowning prevention, including swimming lessons, drowning prevention events, and public water safety education, the City of El Cajon and the community at large acknowledge that drowning is a complex issue and that the progress in reducing the burden and occurrence of fatal and non-fatal drowning requires collaboration between different sectors and stakeholders with diverse perspectives and approaches. Now, therefore, I, Bill Wells, Mayor of the City of El Cajon, together with the City Council, do hereby proclaim May as Water Safety and Drowning Prevention Month. We commend the City of El Cajon's Parks and Recreation Department for their efforts to prevent drowning of El Cajon residents and visitors, and remind everyone to be safe in and around the water this summer and all year long. Signed this 9th day of May, 2023. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, will Recreation Supervisors Malal Luta please tell us about Youth of the Year Award. Hello.
How's it going? Mayor, council members, city staff. My name is Malo Lutu. I work at Renette Recreation Center, and I'm also the city's staff liaison to the Teen Coalition. What we're going to do today is I'm going to have the Teen Coalition kids get a chance to come up here, introduce themselves. I think it's really important that they get a chance to get up here and speak in front of you, and you guys get a chance to see the kids that are really wanting to volunteer into their own community, okay? So we'll do that, and then we'll start with the Youth of the Year stuff.
Thank you. Hi. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for having us here. My name is Bianca. I have been in Teen Coalition for about 6 years now, a little over 6 years. I've been volunteering. I volunteered throughout high school, and now I am serving as the volunteer Teen Coalition coordinator. We've held various community service projects within the last couple months, one of them being the Winter Wonderland at Wells Park. We had kids kind of make holiday cards, which we then distributed to Sharp Grossmont Hospital. And then we also held our own kind of rotation at the Kids Morning Out on Earth Day, where we had kids kind of learn about planting and Earth Day, and we had them all make their own plants and take them home. So I'll go ahead and let the rest of the Teen Coalition members introduce themselves. We'll start off with our Vice Chair, VNA.
My name is Vianney Gonzalez Torres. I go to Eje Academies, and I joined Teen Coalition because I wanted to meet new people and make new connections with them.
Hello, my name is Colette Hurd. I go to Flying Hills School of the Arts, and I joined Teen Coalition because I wanted the opportunity to help out in my community.
Hi, my name is Stella Woodson. I go to Skyline Christian Academy. I joined Teen Coalition to help my city and the people in it.
Hi, my name is Yusuf Shaheen. I'm senior student from Valhalla High School. It's a great opportunity to join this team to help our community, and this will support me a lot with my future career. Thank you.
My name is Fabian Margo. I go to Valhalla High School, and I joined Teen Coalition because I want to be a part of something with others that have similar ideas as I do and help out the community.
All right, so we are here today to present the Youth of the Year award that we do every year. We pick one middle school and one high school recipient. This is typically a student nominated by teachers, counselors, volunteer kind of administrators. This goes to students who are outstanding in their community, serve their community, are leaders in school and outside of school. So I'll go ahead and let VNA introduce our first Youth of the Year recipients.
Congratulations to our middle school recipient of the Youth of the Year, to Jimena Aguirre from Eje Academies. I would also like to call out Ms. Howe to say a few words about our middle school Youth of the Year.
So when all the teachers heard that Jimena had won the award, they all wanted to contribute some words to the ceremony to describe what Jimena does. And here are some of the words, okay? So since day one, she has always demonstrated remarkable academic achievement and exceptional human qualities. She resembles respect, kindness, and responsibilities. Okay. She is one in a million kind of student. She's kind, professional, intelligent, and full of integrity. There are countless occasions when Jimena pushes her own thinking, helps her classmates, and takes her assignments to the next level. Jimena not only has a supreme intellect, but an impassioned heart. For me, as Jimena strives for excellence in everything she does, from solving math problems to leading events at our school for our school community, to volunteering to support both teachers and her peers in class. She sets an amazing example for the entire school. I know her drive and capabilities are going to take her far, and we look forward to seeing what she's going to accomplish.
Just to continue, Jimena has matured into an amazing young adult. Her consistent motivation, grit, and work ethic is something that we're all proud and amazed. She strives at everything that she does. I know that in the past I have never had to tell Jimena to be a leader, to be a role model. That's something that she does by herself. The only thing that we as teachers want for her future is to be happy, to be successful, to do all the things that she's already now. And you're very deserving of this award. We could have spent here the whole day talking about how amazing you are. A lot of teachers wanted to be present, but we're just very proud, and we just hope we know that this is just the beginning of a very successful life.
Would you like to say just a few words?
I'm really grateful for this award, and especially for the teacher who nominated me. And I'm grateful for everyone who has supported me through everything. Ever since I was young, I always looked forward and always wanted to complete the best I could. And it just shows now that it's paying off. And I hope in the future that I can go keep thriving the way I am right now.
Are your parents here?
Yeah, my mom's here.
Have mom stand up? Because you should get. Well, congratulations. That's really a big achievement. Thank you for doing so well, for coming and being with us today.
Thank you.
Now for our high school recipient for the Youth of the Year award. Congratulations to Michaela Alvarez. Michaela has been a CIT over the past 2 summers for Fun in the Sun camp. She continuously goes above and beyond, assisting staff in meeting the needs of the program. She helps with the setup of large activities and has also helped with field trips up to Fletcher Hills Pool. In addition, she has also volunteered at dance camp in 2022. Michaela has also volunteered for Kids Night Out and Kids Morning Out events, in addition to Hillside's Movies in the Park in 2022, assisting staff with setup, breakdown, and program support. Outside of her time volunteering with the city, she is a dedicated student and is always looking to help others. She has traveled outside the country to help with orphanages, focusing on providing assistance to youth. Congratulations to Michaela Alvarez.
Michaela, you want to say something?
Sure. I just want to thank you guys for giving me this opportunity to just come and have this, this opportunity and this cool award. And I just want to thank the Hillside staff for being so cool and helping me and making it fun to do. And I just want to thank for the children. They made it a lot more fun than, So I just thank you for all your guys' help. And yeah.
Are your parents here?
Yeah, my parents. My mom and my dad.
Yeah, mom and dad. Congratulations.
Huh?
Congratulations. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
All right, congratulations once again to both of our recipients. You both will do great in your future careers. But that concludes it for the Teen Coalition. Does anybody have any questions?
Michelle?
So first, congratulations to our winners, Jimena and Michaela, sorry. Congratulations, you guys are going to go far. Be strong women out there and go for your dreams. Also, Jimena's mom, I saw you at the opening of AHA, is it AHA Academy? I saw you at the opening there, and Miss Solis, I saw you performing across the street at the Good Shepherd Center. You're in the music department, correct? The girl standing next to you. Yeah, you. You play music, right? No? Well, I'm embarrassed. There's a little girl that goes to EHA Academy who plays music, and I swear it was you in the front row. So that's what happens when you get old. Congratulations to everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Congratulations, everybody. Thanks for, and you spoke very well today. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to agenda changes. Staff, do you have any agenda changes?
No, sir.
Council members? All right, we're at consent items. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, do you wish to pull any of the consent items? Staff?
No, sir.
Angela, you have speaker cards for consent items?
No speaker card, sir.
I'll make a motion then to approve the consent items.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right. That brings us to public comment. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council Housing Authority successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to items on today's agenda are already been taken at the time that the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, City Council and Housing Authority members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. Angela, do we have any speaker cards for public comment?
We have no cards, sir.
All right, there are no written communications on today's agenda. And we are now at public hearings. We have 3 items to consider. Item 11 is for the delinquent refuse recycling collection charges. And before I ask staff to introduce this item, I must recuse myself because of a new state law. I received a campaign donation for my congressional run from a member of the EDCO staff, and so because of that, I need to recuse myself, so I'll be stepping into the next room, and I will ask Steve Goebel to take care of this, and I'll come back when this item is finished.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Staff, who are we going to have present this item for us?
Mr. Goebel, Public Works staff, Mr. Mike James.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and members of City Council. So this public hearing item is going to discuss the delinquent refuse recycling collection charges, and we'll jump into some of the numbers and some of the reasons why those delinquencies occurred, and the reasons why the initial number of delinquencies was reduced by so much until the final recommended number. But before I do that, I would like to recognize some EDCO staff that are in attendance this evening. We have Mr. Steve South, who's the President and CEO, Mr. Carl Schierbaum, General Manager, Ms. Cindy Horn, Director of Revenue Management and Collections, and that team that's present with us today was really the pivotal information provider to allow us to move forward and to present the information. So next slide. So just a little bit of background. In January of 21, the city established a franchise agreement with EDCO to provide residential and commercial refuse, recycling, and organic services within the city. As a part of that agreement, EDCO may directly bill each customer for the cost of the services that they provide. There are exemptions, though, that may be granted, specifically 3, and they're highlighted here. If an individual or a customer self-hauls their waste, recycling, or organics, if a customer has a current EDCO commercial account in the city that's also under their name, they can self-haul their residential items to their commercial location, or if their property is vacant, and they can show proof of that. In these instances, or there are some instances when customers can't pay their account, and that is why we're here today, because the city may assist EDCO by providing or moving forward with the lien process, and the public hearing is one of the steps in that process. Next slide. So right now we're in the second year of the lien process with EDCO, and if you're looking at the table before you, those are the green columns on the far right with the years 21 and 22. We're talking about 2022 today. But the historical significance of this, it goes back to information with the prior hauler, Waste Management, from 2017 to 2022, and those are all average numbers of the initial accounts and then the final accounts that were recorded as liens. And keep in mind that the process for Waste Management was a little different than what we have now with EDCO. In the time from 17 to 20, there were 3 liens that were recorded each year. So 3 times there were hearings that were presented before the City Council versus what's happening now, which is just 1 time per year. Now, looking at 2022, there was an initial number of delinquent accounts was provided in the agenda report at 1,500. Yesterday, city staff worked directly with EDCO staff at that number because it was determined that it was really provided a little bit prematurely. because it was provided in December, before the actual accounts became delinquent. So when we looked at that again and that number, the actual number of initial accounts was 417, and that was provided probably about, that was generated about February, March timeline. But what's important about that is it really made staff relook at the numbers. Because we didn't have a lot of history working with EDCO, we had to work with averages. But now as we're moving forward, and the next couple graphs will show that, it's going to compare the average, or the historical average, and then the actual cumulative total. So going back, and when we're talking about the 3 hearings itself, instead of taking the average of the 3, we're going to add the 3 together. So then there's a total number of liens per year, and then that's going to be the apples-to-apples comparison with what we're providing with EDCO. Next slide. Oh. So this graph is really simply just a graphical representation of the table that was just shown before you. What I wanted to highlight with this is that you can see from 2017 until 2022, there's a generally downward trend as you move from the past to the present. So there's an inverse relationship between the number of accounts that are delinquent versus the amount of time that moves forward. And just to get into the numbers a little bit, and arrows because they're cool, you can see that when we specifically look at the numbers in 2017 to 2022, on average, there was a 66% reduction. And so that's the green arrow, the bottom line. There's a 66% reduction in the number of actual liens that were recorded from 2017 till 2022. And on average, that was about 317 accounts per year. But again, we're talking averages. And so then that brings up the next point initially that I brought up was, instead of averages, well, let's just talk totals. Let's add up the total each year, and this is what it looks like. So you still have the same trend. It's still inverse. It's still coming down as you move forward in time. But what you should notice is that the volume of accounts is fairly significant. And the number of liens here since 2017 have decreased nearly 90% that have been recorded. And that's almost 1,300 accounts that have been reduced since 2017 until 2022. And so now we're actually looking at the total number of accounts that were recorded as liens year over year. So moving forward, this is something that the City Council should expect to see because we now have that historical number to be able to compare year over year. But a lot of numbers, right? And so now I want to leave you with one specific number that really kind of ties everything together. Next slide. And that's the delinquency rate. So the delinquency rate is just the number of delinquent accounts divided by total accounts. And so when I took that number and ran the analysis from 2017 until 2022, it's pretty easy to see that the rate went from 10% all the way down to 1% in 2022. And I'd like to highlight the delinquency rate in 21 because that's where you see a huge drop from 7% down to 0.8%. And then now we're at 1%, which is probably, it's roughly in the ballpark when you're looking at the number of liens that were actually, or that will actually be recorded on the property. So that's the number that staff wanted to stress moving forward because at that same time in 21, that was when the contractual relationship began with EDCO. So to touch a little bit more about why are these accounts delinquent? City staff worked closely with EDCO staff, and these were probably the strongest or the more frequent reasons that were brought up. But I wanted to highlight that last bullet point with the payment confusion. So this past year, there was a lot of tenant exchange. New tenants coming in, old tenants leaving, owners, and there seemed to be no communication between the 3 individuals, so the bill didn't necessarily get paid. So a lot of the times, that was the primary reason that was brought up as to why certain bills weren't paid. And then now bringing forward to the current amount that's being recommended is 161 accounts. But similar to everyone learns a different way, I think everybody remembers that there's a different way to pay a bill. And so for that reason, really EDCO provided multiple methods of outreach. Multiple invoices, letters, emails, automated calls, personal telephone calls, and even to the numbers of 2 invoices, 2 letters, 2 notes on cart, 1 email, 2 automated calls, and at least two personal calls. And those are to each delinquent account. So when we're talking about that initial number that was provided at 417, why that number dropped down to 161, which is where it is currently at today, that's why. It's because there was at least 11 touches for each delinquent account holder. And when you do the math, that comes up to almost about 1,800 separate contacts that were made for each of the accounts that are on the delinquent list. So at this time, that concludes staff's presentation, and staff is available to answer any questions or respond to comments.
Okay, before we get to staff questions, do we have any slips from the public to speak on this item?
We have no speaker cards, sir.
Okay, I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Any questions, comments? I've got a couple of observations. So the 161 that are left averages out to about $285 per delinquency. And when you consider it takes 11 touches, they're kind of losing money trying to get these delinquencies. So I give EDCO some credit for being just really accommodating to our customers over and over. I think they've provided good service. There are a few things in society that have only gone up 7% in the past 2 years. They started with us on January 1st, 2021. So we are now almost 2.5 years into the contract. And I remember my residential payment was like $100.31 on day one. And today it's like $107 and something. Not much has stayed at 3.5% inflation for the past 2 years. So we thank EDCO for really providing great service, and city staff for negotiating a good contract on behalf of our residents. That was really good. So the bulky item pickup, EDCO's great. I've done that a couple of times. Very easy, very friendly. These are great customer service people, and we're very fortunate to have them. So with that, I'm looking for a motion for somebody from the council to approve the staff recommendation.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Mr. City Attorney, do I need to close the public hearing?
We took advantage of your finding there were no public comments to close it ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion, I'm sorry, by who? Mr. Ortiz, second by Ms. Mitchell. Please vote.
I apologize. I'm going to have to reset that. Please vote. Motion carries by a 4-0 vote, with Mayor Wells disqualified as he received a congressional campaign donation from an EDCO staff member.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, EDCO people, for coming. Great to have you with us today. We appreciate your service to our city. I'll go ahead and get the mayor back in, and he can resume taking over.
Before you do that, Deputy Mayor Goebel, I think the last step is to authorize the city clerk to file the liens with the county recorder or tax assessor's office. There's a fourth step in there. I'm not sure it's in the resolution, to be honest with you, but we ought to at least take that step.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. We're going to have you step out for just 30 more seconds. We missed an item. Okay, so I have a motion. I'll make a motion to authorize the city clerk to record the amount as a lien. Do I have a second?
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by a 4-0 vote, with Mayor Wells disqualified as he received a congressional campaign contribution from an EDCO staff member.
Okay, that takes us to item 12, and I'll pass it back to the mayor.
Okay. The next public hearing, item 12, is amendment to the 5-year program for the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, the RTIP. And I'll ask staff to tell us about this item.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. My name is Mario Sanchez, city engineer. I'm here to talk about our amendment to the 5-year program of projects for the Sandag RTIP program. So a little bit about the background of the RTIP. As you know, Sandag is Transnet is the countywide half sales tax for local transportation projects here in the region. And the city receives approximately $3.5 million annually to fund our transportation projects here in the city. And the current 2023 RTIP program of projects for the city was approved by City Council last year on May 10th. And this proposed amendment will program $7.55 million from carryover funds from the 2021 RTIP. And where we're going to allocate the monies, our proposed amendment is to increase funds in the street overlay account by $6 million for current and new projects, and increase funds in the sidewalk improvement account by $550,000 for new sidewalks, curb gutters, and for our current projects, and increase funds in our street resurfacing account by $1 million for our current and new slurry seal projects. A little detail of the projects that are slated for the next year or so. The slurry projects, we're going to tackle Avocado, Marshall, Greenfield, Fletcher Parkway, our major thoroughfares. And for street overlays, Chase Avenue, Cuyamaca Street, Broadway, and Main, and 18 other local streets are slated. And we'll also continue our ADA concrete improvement program as well. So our staff recommendations to authorize to approve the amendment to the proposed 5-year program projects for 2023, the RTIP, and I'll open it up to any questions.
Let me see if there's any questions. Michelle?
So just so I'm clear on that, the potholes that are on Broadway from Mollison to Graves, that's all going to be covered in the overlay project?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Just in case residents ask me why those weren't done. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
We have no speakers, sir.
All right, I think I need to close the public hearing, so make a motion to close the public hearing. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, this just seems like a housekeeping item. If anybody would like to make a motion?
I'll move to adopt the next resolution approving the amendment to the proposed 5-year program of Sandag for the RTIP.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
The last public hearing, item 13, is also Sandag related. This is for the Regional Transportation Congestion Improvement Program. I'll ask staff to introduce this item.
Good afternoon again. Mario Sanchez, City Engineer. This item is our annual fee update for the Regional Transportation Congestion Improvement Program, or the RTCIP. So this is an element of the Transnet Extension Ordinance that was adopted in 2008 and requires all the 18 cities in the region, in the county, and the County of San Diego to collect an exaction fee for any new housing unit that's built in the city. And this also exempts low-income residential and ADUs are exempted from this fee. And these fees we have to use these specifically on the El Cajon regional arterial system. And these fees are used to fund our street improvement projects, paving, traffic signal related projects, a roundabout that we're constructing here at El Cajon Boulevard in Johnson. And since 2008, the city has collected over about $750,000 in RTCIP fees, which averages to about $50,000 a year. And this list is our regional arterial system from Avocado to Washington. I think it covers most of our major thoroughfares on our street, and it just complements the overall regional arterial system in the greater region. This slide shows Engineering News Record construction cost index, and so Sandag is required to adjust the fee on July 1st of each year based on the analysis of the construction cost index data assembled by the Engineering News Record of Southern California. And this past February, the Sandag Board of Directors approved an increase to the fee of minimum of 2% for its to maintain its purchasing power. But over here in December 2021 to 2022, the cost index went over 7%, but they held it at 2%. So our staff recommendation is to request authorization to approve the 2% fee adjustment from the fee that we, for the $2,688.21 that we collect for each single-family dwelling unit. And the new fee is the $2,797 in cents. But other than that, open it up for questions.
Great. Any questions? Okay, thanks very much. Do we have any speaker cards for this item?
We have no cards, sir.
All right, make a motion to close public hearing. Second. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
Move to adopt the resolution approving an adjustment to the Regional Transportation Congestion Improvement Program fee to the new amount of $2,741.97.
Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, Mario, thank you.
Thank you.
We have two administrative reports on today's agenda. Item 14, the 22-23 mid-year report and 5-year business plan update. And I'd like to ask our staff to tell us about this, please. Hi, Clay.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, distinguished members of the City Council. My name is Clay Shane. I'm the Finance Director for the City of El Cajon. I'm here today to present our fiscal year 23 mid-year report and 5-year business plan. We have a very full agenda today, and I want to cover a lot of ground here, so I'm going to go very quickly. However, if you have questions along the way, please let's stop there and discuss them before moving on. In today's presentation, I would like to briefly summarize the fiscal year 22 results, introduce the FY23 mid-year report and 5-year business plan, pick up where we left off discussing pensions earlier in the year, introduce a couple of proposed budget amendments for the current year, and discuss the FY24 budget timeline. Jumping off onto FY22 results, for the general fund, we started the fiscal year with approximately $53 million in total fund equity. The final revised budget for revenues totaled $84.2 million, with expenditures totaling approximately $83.8 million. At the end of the fiscal year, that would have been 53.5 ending fund balance if everything had gone as planned. On the revenue side, however, we exceeded expectations significantly. Revenues totaled approximately $88.3 million, or $4 million over budget. The vast majority of this is being driven by sales tax, which continues to defy expectations. As you are all very well aware, I'm sure, inflation has been quite high. That is expected to trigger a slowdown in the economy, and yet consumer spending keeps hanging in there and generating more and more sales tax. Going along with sales tax, TOT is up also approximately $400,000. It's not as big of a category, but both of those are very sensitive to changes in the overall economy, and they hung in there throughout the year. That, however, is offset by approximately $3 million of unrealized losses. On the expenditure side, expenditures totaled $80.8 million, or approximately $3 million under budget. Two primary causes there. One, savings in the Public Works Department in material supplies and services, and vacancy savings in our police department. Taken all together, we see that beginning fund balance grow from $53 million through revenues and expenditures, as I just described, to ending the year at approximately $60.5 million of total general fund reserves. That's approximately 75% of FY22 expenditures. For wastewater, we started the year at approximately $28 million of total available budgetary fund balance. We've received revenues of approximately $28.6 million, with expenditures of approximately $24.2 million, both of which were under budget, and most of that is the result of capital improvement activity. We ended the fiscal year with approximately $32.3 million of budgetary fund balance. Shifting our focus forward into the current year, FY23, starting off with general fund revenues, sales tax continues to defy expectations. Our revenue budget for sales tax was approximately $45 million. We're expecting to exceed that by approximately $1.8 million. Property taxes, a little bit of a surprise there. With inflation as high as it is, interest rates are up, mortgage rates are up. This should slow the housing market down, and we've witnessed kind of the exact opposite happening and having a little bit of a blockbuster year in property tax. Franchise fees are up. A combination of SDG&E franchise fee, which is largely driven by electricity sales, but also as we come to terms with the new franchise agreement with EDCO. Overall, we expect general fund revenues to exceed the budget by approximately $5 million this year. On the expenditure side, we see two big drivers of savings over the course of this year. The first, approximately $3 million worth of savings in the personnel cost categories. This is largely driven by vacancies, as many city departments are struggling to fill vacant positions, most acutely in the police department. Additionally, we have approximately $3 million in savings projected in materials, supplies, and services. For the most part, that's primarily driven by the Public Works Department as well. In total, we expect general fund expenditures to end the year approximately $5.5 million under budget. Taken together, we're anticipating to end the fiscal year with estimated fund balance of approximately $68.1 million. That does not take into account the proposed budget amendments that are included in this report. If things go as projected here and we end at 68.1, that's approaching 80% of fund balance. Had something interesting pointed out to me on the slide by a member of the finance staff. If you recall, a year ago when we were adopting the FY23 budget, we had quite a bit of discussion about reprogramming general fund reserves at that time and shifting money around between the reserve buckets. At that time, the carryover reserve balance was $23 million that we'd redistributed, and we're looking like we're going to end there again this year. For wastewater, here again, we started the year with $32.3 million in budgetary fund balance. We're projecting to receive approximately $34.6 million of revenue over the course of the year. This is about $2.8 million over budget. The majority driver there is a return of metro charges from previous years. On the expenditure side, we expect to total approximately $28.8 million, leaving us with a budgetary fund balance at the end of the year of approximately $38.1. Looking into next year and the years beyond on the 5-year business plan, this is my typical caveat. It's in the report. You've heard me say it every year. Projections are not set in stone. Things change. Decisions are made. This is a planning tool and should be viewed as such to draw attention on things that require our attention. To set the stage for that, I wanted to introduce the impacts of the economy on those projected results. Inflation has a major impact on what we're seeing right now in the economy. We have had 2 calendar years where inflation has exceeded 6%, and even as of March of this year, 12-month CPI was still 5%. It's having a significant impact on the economy. It's typically a trigger for a slowdown. However, we're witnessing the exact opposite. I looked at fresh reports just in the last couple of days. Consumer spending is up, which is the exact opposite of what you would expect to happen. We're still seeing a strong housing market. And GDP for the first quarter of 2023 remains positive while slowing at 1.1%. unemployment remains strong at approximately 3.5% nationally. So when we take that and other assumptions into account, we end up with projected results for the general fund as described in the report. I'm not going to read a long list of numbers to you, but I would like to bring a couple of things to your attention. The first of which is the change in inflows between 23 and 24. Typically, the general fund is pretty consistent with experiencing revenue growth of somewhere between $3 and $4 million every year. We're expecting about half of that next year. Our sales tax consultants have finally called it and said, okay, guys, it's finally going to slow down. It's going to happen. Sales tax is going to hit the brakes next year, and we're expecting zero growth in sales tax for next year. Most of that increase is by every other category. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is if you notice on the change in fund balance, that column is the projected surplus deficit on any given year. You'll notice a significant change between FY 26 and 27. The change there is a move from informed estimates based on existing or being negotiated MOUs into a default assumption in the subsequent years. Our default assumption, where we don't have any other information to base an estimate, has been 2% traditionally. However, with the way things have been the last couple of years, by the time you see this again next year, I think we may reevaluate that. I think that's a little bit optimistic. The other significant thing I wanted to bring to your attention is on the revenue side in the years FY 28, 29, and 30. We will collect the last dollar of Prop J sales tax on March 31st of 2029, unless it is either extended or renewed. FY 29 will be an incomplete year of sales tax. We'll collect approximately 3/4 of a year's worth. That's why it doesn't fall off quite so abruptly. But by 2030, it is completely out of the projection, and you can see the impact there in the deficit in those outlying years. On the wastewater side, we're still relatively new to this game, doing 5 years. This is only the second year doing it, and we have a lot of work to do in refining our projections. However, based on our assumptions, we expect to continue to see modest surpluses generated each year. Changing gears to return to our previous discussion about the pension plan status. Don't need to go into details on this slide. I know it's difficult to read. This is sort of just where to pick up the conversation from last time. If you recall, the last time we spoke about this, we spent a lot of time discussing the far right side of that slide, which the big bar is the investment returns from fiscal year 21. CalPERS had a blockbuster year of 21.3%. However, it does not show the following year. We will not see the updated version of this for a couple of months yet, but CalPERS investment returns were a negative 6.1%. So back to back there, they went from 14% over expectations to 13% under, and that was the story here. Since that discussion, we have had the opportunity to work with CalPERS projecting and modeling tools. One thing I want to point out that represents the top line is our projected 2022 valuation impacts. That won't be official until later this year. But based on projections, we expect the total liability, pension liability, to increase as it typically does. If you notice top to bottom there, you see a pretty consistent growth year to year, and that's a pretty normal pattern. On the asset side, though, that's where the story really lies. If you look at the last 4 years, starting in 2019, and I bring up 2019 because that was the last valuation we had prior to issuing POBs. If you notice, moving into 2020, they did not revise that number for our POB proceeds. So you don't see a very big jump there. But the very next year, you see it jump from $378 million to $614 million. That was the combination of two different events. One, we gave them $150 million of POB proceeds, but they also had the 21.3% year return. And you can kind of see the impact on both the unfunded balance as well as the funding status as a result of those two events. We saw the unfunded liability drop from $225 million to $24 million, and the funding status improved to 62.7 to 96.3. But here again, negative returns in the very following year. We see that asset total drop to $557 million. Our unfunded liability increase by $70 million or so, and our funding status drop. Just a reminder, that does not include the POB debt. So that 2019 valuation year, I hit on a little bit there, and I want to show the slide to kind of bring you back to the discussions we had prior to issuing the POB. We spent a lot of time discussing this slide, and I've shown it a few times since. And this was really what was driving the decision to issue POB. The numbers are small, it's tough to read, but just as a refresher, it was an exercise in basically the $200 million worth of debt service payments for the POB, extinguishing approximately $300 million worth of UAL payments, and that was generating a projected slightly more than $100 million in interest savings as a result. However, a lot of things have happened since then. Now, don't panic on the slide. I know these numbers are really small. Don't expect anyone to read them, but I want to use this information in a slightly different way. But each of those is a row of numbers, and if you look at it and think about it like a bar chart, this is sufficient to tell the story. The row of numbers on the far left is the list of payments we were required to make before issuing POBs. That column of number adds up to $388 million. We issued POBs, made the payment to PERS, and we saw the very next year those payments shrink to $114 million. As you can see, the bar got smaller. The very next year, they had their blockbuster year, 21.3%, and it virtually wiped the slate clean, almost gave us a clean start. That total unfunded liability dropped to $13.3 million as a result of that. And honestly, we kind of knew it was too good to be true, because at that point we knew we were going to have investment losses the very next year, and that represents the far right column. So just looking at the length of those columns of numbers kind of tells you the story and the wild swings we've seen in our UAL over the last 3 years as a result of the POB and the two investment returns. We've seen it drop by $260 million. It's $150 million of POB and the $100 million of interest savings. Drop again by another $100 million because of investment gains, and then tack $150 million back on as a result of losses. So that's far from good news, but in looking for a silver lining, we continued to chew on these numbers and we found an opportunity. Here again, small numbers, showing it mainly to demonstrate that we have gone through the process of this. The far left column remains the 2019 UAL payments, the $388 million. But the middle three columns are a combination of the POB debt service payments, the revised, the current projected UAL payments, and then the total of the two. And sadly, we see that total balance of payments go from the 2019 valuation at $388 million to a current projected amount of $390 million. And it's a little deflating. It feels an awful lot like we're right back where we started. A couple of things I want to point out, though. One, we still have saved $100 million of interest. Had that not taken place, instead of that number being $400 million, it would be $500 million. The other thing that has happened, and I don't want to use the word accident, but we kind of lucked into this a little bit, is by virtue of the fact that they earned a whole lot of money in investment earnings and then lost it, it kind of reset the table a little bit. And what we saw is if you were to look at the schedule of payments for the 2019 valuation, you kind of see numbers that start out big and gradually go smaller. And you look at it where we're sitting now, it kind of has the exact opposite impact. So what we see is we still have 10 years worth of savings and then 10 years of higher payments in the future. And I want to draw your attention specifically onto one little aspect of this. This is the exact same chart, just the first few years, so you can actually have numbers big enough that you can read them. And if you notice on the far right-hand column for years 24, 25, and 26, comparing where we are now versus prior to issuing POBs, we see a small pocket, a small opportunity where we have fairly significant savings for 3 years. In 24, we're projecting to have savings of $4.7 million as a result, $4 million in 2025, and just under $3 million for 2026. That's the foundation of proposed additional contributions. Now, I bristle a little bit at the term additional contributions. This is a technical term. This is what CalPERS calls it. It kind of has an air of like they're optional payments or it's money we don't have to pay. This is money we absolutely have to pay sooner or later. There's a couple of different ways to think about it, though. One is if you think about your mortgage payment, if you make additional monthly payments onto your mortgage, you pay off your mortgage sooner, you save interest. Very much the same thing is happening here. But there's an alternative way of looking at it. If you look at it like a high-interest credit card, if you only make the minimum payment required, you're never going to pay off that balance, and all you're going to do is stay on the hamster wheel paying interest. So when we saw that opportunity, that 3 or 4 year window where we actually are going to experience savings, we thought it was the appropriate time to jump in and try to make a series of additional contributions. So what staff recommends is in FY23, take a portion of the 22 general fund surplus, $5 million of it, letting the other 2 fall back to fund balance to fund the overhiring of police officers, as well as a proportional share from the other city funds that have staff for a total citywide contribution of $5.9 million in the current year. And then a series of additional payments in 24, 25, and 26 of $4.5 million, $3.5, and $2.5 million. That is the first of the proposed budget amendments in this report. The other 2 very much could be categorized as housekeeping and follow more or less the same thought process. Both the CDBG and home programs follow a pattern of administration that really settles on the use of 3 sets of numbers. There's the 1-year action plan that City Council decides how the city is going to spend its CDBG money. Then we put that into effect administratively by setting appropriations, which is the city budget. And then there's the numbers that they used going into the IDIS system for HUD to manage it on the Fed side. Ideally, all 3 of those numbers would be the same. However, historically, they have moved at different times. When we transitioned to our new accounting system, the finance department worked in conjunction with the community development department to reconcile both of these activities, and we decided that having those 3 numbers work in lockstep would alleviate a lot of administrative problems. So a big component of these proposed appropriations is simply getting the city budget caught up to the 1-year action plans. Additionally, there's a couple of areas where things were not appropriated until they were right on the cusp of spending the money, and we're proposing appropriating it early so that you still have that tie to the 1-year action plan. While we're discussing budget, I didn't want to leave without discussing briefly the FY24 budget that's approaching frighteningly quickly. Our plan is to return to the City Council in June 13th, and introduce and discuss the FY24 annual budget with a minimum of summary information. We have some struggles, continue to have some struggles with the new accounting system and being caught up. We potentially are going to be impact on having that document ready for the City Council. May not have it by the 13th. Certainly will have it by the 27th, at which time we will ask the City Council to adopt the FY24 budget. As soon as the full document's ready, we will release it. With that, I'll conclude my presentation with the 3 recommended actions, the first of which that the City Council receive and accept the FY23 mid-year report 5-year business plan. Number 2, increase FY23 appropriations for $5.9 million of proposed additional CalPERS contributions. And lastly, combined $2.3 million of appropriation amendments for the CDBG and home activities. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Clay.
Welcome.
Any questions? All right. We're going to go ahead and take public comment, and then we may call you back.
We have no speakers, sir.
Okay. Well, I guess, Clay, you're back up. Did you enjoy your rest?
Yeah. I do have some questions. Okay. I think sales tax is up because prices are up. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that the restaurant industry is starting to feel some pain, that even though their sales are okay, their customer counts are down year over year. So they're having to adjust their menus to something almost like a value menu during dinner hours instead of just happy hours. So I'm also a little cautious about the sales tax numbers because we're seeing lower counts, at least in the restaurant sector. The Prop J slide, I was freaking out till you told me that the negative numbers in the final years are really because Prop J is not in there. Mm-hmm. So my recommendation is, boy, if you publish this slide somewhere else, can we put a caveat at the bottom, does not include renewal of Prop J, so that we don't have to do defibrillator stuff on us. The consumer spending, 82, according to TransUnion, one of the major credit bureaus, 82% of the consumers believe the U.S. will have a recession by the end of this year. However, millennials and Gen Z are 64%, 61% optimistic things are going to be better for them, which is great. And on the other side, we're saying that while you're seeing consumer spending increasing, we're also seeing consumer debt. This is kind of like 2008, where the spending was from debt, not from increased discretionary income. So I also am a little cautious about some of the forecasts as well. On the wastewater fund side, for a moment, I just want to talk about the Advanced Water Purification Project. The County Water Authority is talking about increasing the wholesale rates 14%. And roughly half of our water bill is county water money, so those bills could go up 7% or so. But on the wastewater side, which we pay wastewater, we're seeing that because our rates are tied to the county rate, the revenue to the recycling plant is going to go way up higher. The payback on the sewer side is going to be much better than we ever thought, keeping those wastewater rates lower than we thought. That's good news. My concern, to wrap this up, is the use of $5 million for the pension. Not that I'm concerned that alone, because that's like paying down your mortgage by $5 million. But my concern is that we're not making necessary repairs to the rest of the house. So my caution to the city management is, 2 years ago, on July 1st, 2021, we had a general fund reserve of $53 million. And 2 years later, now we're expecting to end at $68.1 million, $15 million higher. And we're saying we're going to save $5 million to pay down the pension. Good news. Eventually, the public is going to ask, that's great that you paid down the pensions for the employees. What about the rest of us? The public is going to ask us that. And we're saying, we're challenging city staff to come up with ideas for how to repair the rest of the house for the citizens' benefit. Do you see the optics if we only put money towards employee pensions and not for the public of the benefit? This would be an outcry from the public, and we have to get stronger at identifying things that we can use that reserve. It's just, the good news is you're so good at managing money. And it's almost, there is, what do they say? No good deed goes unpunished. You're so good at managing money that we have this growing surplus, but we need to start using it for the benefit of our residents. Whether it's streets, that's very expensive. That's $370,000 just for a mile of slurry streets, and we've got nearly 400 street miles. So, but we're going to have to find some place to really benefit the taxpayers, the ratepayers on the use of these reserves, and that is my challenge to staff is let's start getting a little tougher on finding some of those opportunities to benefit people.
I'd like to, I agree. Paying down pension is not glamorous. However, the argument I would make to the resident, and maybe we need to do a better job of it, but I also agree that there needs to be a big splash project. I'm not disagreeing with that. But if we were to take the $5 million, but if we were to take another $5 million and do $10 million of pay down, that would be $650,000 that the city would save in interest next year, just next year. $650,000 starts to almost take the overhires of police officers, which we haven't got there because we can't find the police officers, but it no longer uses general fund reserves year after year. It starts to fund itself. So that is the value of paying down pension, although it's not seen in a big splash. It's not recognized because it is buried in a way in the budget, but it certainly does free up money, ongoing money, not one-time money, but ongoing money for those vital services that the residents require. I think there's some opportunities for some education in that area, but I think staff is looking for some big splash projects to utilize some of our reserves that will, in our mind, help defer or help with some infrastructure that has been deferred, create opportunities for additional revenue, or just big beautification projects that don't have ongoing expenditures.
So they're doing the Bradley widening project. Some of this money that could be used for beautification up at that end, if something were to go through on that. And that's a big splash project, something on the north end.
It is, although just so you know, we just got an email from the county today that they are not anticipating, they still have to contemplate how they can legally dispose of the property. We would make the argument that they should give it to the city. I think that would be our argument. But they won't even start to contemplate that until 2026. So we're still a lot of years off from that.
I just want to ask a question. I want to be careful. I want to check with the council that we're not getting off the agenda and start getting into a discussion about how we're going to spend money in the future. You tell me if this
well,
is.
I think we're still in the general realm of pie in the sky type of stuff, as opposed to specifics. Those are discussions for another day, based on what the city manager can bring back to city council on recommendations.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're not getting out of our lane.
I'm encouraged, even though CalPERS returns were low. It seems like we should be encouraged with the issuance of the pension obligation bonds, considering we'd be $100 million higher in our unfunded liabilities had we not done it. Am I correct in that assumption?
Absolutely. You have basically refinanced 7% debt for 3% debt.
That's fantastic.
So that is still $100 million worth of savings, regardless of what is piled on top of that.
Right. You made a comment regarding consultants saying sales tax growth will stop at some point, and they said this year is going to be the end. What are some of their assumptions based on? I'm just curious.
Well, to be honest, I think that's the foundation of that thought. I think, one, you do have the same observations as Councilman Goebel shared, but also there's a lot of red flags in the economy that you typically look for that say, if this happens, then the result is this. And we've kind of been living in that same environment for over 2 years now. Mm-hmm. It just hasn't happened yet. And I think most people are finally getting to the point where it's like, okay, eventually that dam has to break. And I think they're not just our sales tax consultants, but you see a lot of pundits that are definitely talking about us approaching that ledge, getting closer. It's going to happen, guys. It's going to happen. Okay. And I think that's just kind of going with the herd.
Yeah, I would agree. I heard a report with regard to real estate that the number of homes for sale in San Diego County is the lowest it's been in, I don't know how many years, maybe a decade. So if that's any indication of the economy, I would tend to be cautious as well. So sales tax revenue increase. We're saving, especially on the public works side. We talk a lot about homelessness and crime affecting our city, but I've said this before on the dais, our pension obligation our unfunded liabilities with regard to our pension, I think, is the silent killer for a city. I mean, we've already seen cities in California default and go bankrupt because they haven't addressed their pension pension obligations. So I am in support of chipping that away to be responsible, because if we let this get out of hand and we don't stay laser focused on it, then it could be financial ruin for a city, as we've seen in other cities. I do agree with Councilman Goebel in that maybe a public works project, and maybe we set a goal for X amount of dollars each year to speed up the deferred maintenance on some of the public works projects. I think, that's one of our core responsibilities as a city, is maintaining the infrastructure of it. Whether that be, I know we're getting grants for sidewalks. Maybe we contribute more, increase slurries or overlays. But I think we're looking at PD, and we're doing our best to hire there. I know we're doing the study for fire to increase personnel with our fire department. I think the next place we should look is public works. If we're going to spend any sizable amount of our reserves, I think those three would be the priority. But I would support paying down our CalPERS liability. Thank you.
Gary? Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Ortiz. We need to pay down that liability. I don't want to keep kicking the can down the road, because we're really with that pension liability, we're at the mercy of the stock market, and we don't know if it's going to go up or down. We don't know if property taxes are going to go down this year and next year as the market dips a little bit. So I think paying down debt is always a good idea, but I agree that we should also have some sort of public works project, so the public isn't saying, well, what are you doing for us? So, making the city look better, or slurring roads, or whatever we decide, I think that's a good thing.
A couple quick questions. As the nature of the economy gets worse, and I think if I got it right, you projected that our sales tax bounty that we've had recently will not last forever. Am I correct in?
That's what the current projections tell us.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So at what point will that start chipping into the reserves? Is there an equation where our reserves get affected by this change?
The current projections that our consultants have worked on have next year, FY24, flat compared to 23, and then pick up and growing again. Whatever event they envision for 24, they see it being very short-lived and very minorly impactful. So I don't think we'll be in a condition where our backs are going to be against the wall and having to lean on reserves to carry us through. There's, on any given year, there's some risk of spending more than we bring in, but, government moves slowly in the expenditure of that much money. There's an opportunity to manage it, of course, along the way. So I would say that's probably fairly low risk.
Great. You mentioned one of the reasons we had more revenue this year is because of unfilled positions in the police department. Isn't that offset by the amount of overtime then that we have to spend, or does that come from a different pot?
No, sure. There is overtime that a lot of the departments in general, specifically the public safety departments, where they do have to incur higher levels of overtime to fill in those mandatory staffing requirements. but they are not keeping up with the vacancy savings from the vacant positions. So there's still a bigger hole being dug from the vacant positions than it's being filled in by the overtime.
How many positions are we short at this point?
I'm looking to HR or PD. Yes. 10. So we're still down 10.
10 sworn officers or support
Yeah,
positions?
sworn positions, which are officers. Despite efforts to recruit, we have some people in the academy right now. We're in backgrounds on a few people, some laterals actually right now. But yeah, the competition is real.
So 10 million or 10 officers is about $1.7 million a year. So that kind of tracks with projected $3 million overall citywide in savings. So.
Well, since everybody gave their opinion, I am also inclined to want to pay off debt as much as possible. But I understand the impetus to show the public something tangible. Phil was first, and then you.
Talk to me. Let's say the pundits and with regard to the economy actually occurs, and there's a decline, and we see a significant drop in sales tax revenue. And this might be to the city manager. What would be the recommendation of city staff with regard to there's a deficit? Do we cut staff? Do we dip into savings? How do you manage that? And what does that look? Talk me through that.
Mr. Shane, can you go back a slide or two? Keep going. Pre-pension. Keep going. Oh, there we go. So as you recall, the general fund balance has different pots of money, and one of those pots is economic uncertain reserve. Because what you wouldn't want to do is, we think there's a recession on the way, and because you don't realize, so if we were to lay off 5 staff members, for example, you don't realize that savings for the full year, right? And so you'll experience those savings over the course of that year. And so if you think you're going to be down $1 million, you'd have to do some dramatic things to make up that $1 million. So a lot of cities that are on the edge will make really rash decisions, cut staff, destroy morale, make it difficult to rehire those folks. But if you have this pot of money for an uncertain economy, you can rely on that at least for a quarter or a half a year or a year, and then without making those dramatic cuts, because you don't know what's going to happen. And that does give you time to right the ship and make the right decisions rather than a rash, let's save money right away decision. So we would recommend that you'd rely on that economic uncertain reserve of $15 million. And then as you get into the recession and you see, okay, is this going to last a long time? Then you can start making some decisions that way, one way or the other, or go, as Mr. Shane said, our consultants thinks that we'll have a 1-year plateau or a dip, but we'll kind of be back to where we were before and with steady growth. So you can just go, we're just going to use that reserve to weather that storm, and then we'll backfill that reserve when we have a good year again. So that would be my overall recommendation.
Perfect. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
A couple of comments on that to follow up, too. That economic uncertainty reserve is 20% of expenditures. So that is a little over 2 full months of general fund operations entirely. So it would have to be a pretty catastrophic event to exhaust that reserve.
Thank you.
While we're on this slide, the 20%, the two numbers aren't changing year to year, even though our budget is changing year to year.
That requires an act of council to redesignate. So when we take the 24 budget to council for adoption, there will be a recommendation to reset those numbers.
And we may just take money out of the carryover reserve and plop it up into the 20% so that we don't increase our reserves. My question on the 10 police officers, is that because of retirements or because we're losing them to other agencies?
Primarily retirements. Again, I'm looking to HR and police staff. In the last year, how many officers have we lost to another agency? So if you couldn't hear that, so we've lost 1 or 2 officers to other agencies. The 10 vacancies are the overhires that we've really never gotten to that point. The nice thing about the 10 overhires is at least we're at full complement, which we've also never been at for years and years and years. So,
yeah, I think that's a good point. Is we're not necessarily down 10 officers. We just haven't taken advantage of the 10 extra officers we budgeted for. We should let the public know we're not down 10 officers. We just can't find the 10 extra that we've allocated for. That's a big difference in a story.
Okay. Anybody else? Clay, thank you very much. And please thank your staff. I know that there's a lot of work that goes into this presentation.
That is true, and I will. Thank you, sir.
Okay, then. Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
No, sir, no speakers.
All right, it's back to us. Does somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the staff recommendation as outlined in the agenda report.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and finish the meeting. The last administrative report on today's agenda, item 15, is a recap of the Urban Roots Gardening Initiative project, and I'll ask staff to tell us all about this. Hi.
Good afternoon, good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. My name is Kevin Mackey.
Hi, my name is Ellen Holmes.
Hi.
And today we're going to be providing a report recapping the Urban Roots Gardening Initiative. So a little background, the City Council directed staff a few months ago to develop a program that enabled residents to be provided gardening assistance from the City of El Cajon. So the Urban Roots program was developed. It offered $300 for gardening supplies for a single household and $1,000 for an apartment complex owner partnering up with 3 tenants. So the results of our project, we met capacity within 6 days. It was very popular. We received over 100 applications with hundreds more applying for the interest form. The pickup events took place on March 25th and April 8th. March 25th for the main event and April 8th for the gardening bed pickup. A total of 74 households were provided gardening supplies and were able to improve or create new gardens in their homes. So the primary pickup event was March 25th, which took place in the Home Depot parking lot. With the help of Home Depot staff, staff was able to make the pickup event very seamless, and it was a great success. We also want to thank Public Works for offering us a space for our April 8th pickup event for the gardening beds.
With the generous help of the We Are One volunteer committee, we were able to put together 74 individual carts ahead of time with each resident's gardening supplies. This helped ensure a seamless pickup for the next day so that residents were able to essentially grab their items and go. This map shows the distribution of new and improved gardens in El Cajon thanks to the program. As you can see, the residents who received supplies are fairly evenly distributed around El Cajon. This is likely in large part due to the city's various marketing efforts. The program was advertised in the print My El Cajon newsletter, also marketed through videos and posts on social media and through an information page on the My El Cajon app. The following resources are linked on the Urban Roots webpage and provide useful resources for program participants and other gardening enthusiasts who want to continue the gardening journeys. These resources connect residents with local farming networks and promote knowledge of local gardening practices. They include the San Diego Co-Harvest, San Diego Roots Sustainable Food Project, the Master Gardener Association, and the Water Conservancy Garden. The following couple of slides show some of the city's new gardens and fruit trees. You can see a wide variety of both fruit trees and garden beds with vegetables and herbs, which shows the program's success in providing supplies to meet the individual gardening needs of our residents. And hopefully, as these gardens grow, they will help offset rising food prices and allow residents to grow healthy food at home. Let us know if you have any questions.
First off, thanks for getting so many people involved and so many groups involved in this. It was very well organized. I think you did a great job. Let me see if there's any questions. No, I just think it was a great success. Thanks for making it happen. Let me see if there's any.
I just have one comment, Mr. Mayor and Council. First of all, do you have any public comments?
No public comments.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt that.
Yeah.
Train of thought. Did I take care of it okay?
You got to ask that question. I get in trouble when I don't ask that question.
Yeah. And I didn't want you to not look like you asked the question. I knew you were going to go.
Yeah.
Kevin is about to earn his MPA degree, and so he'll be graduating next week?
Yes,
or the week after.
This Friday.
This Friday. So we're going to be losing him as one of our city manager interns. I just wanted to publicly thank him, and he did a great job teaming up with Elena to figure this project out. Kind of came up with nowhere. They didn't have a template to look for. This is all on their own, so appreciate the leadership from the city council, but the leadership from these two that helped make this project implemented.
Where are you off to then?
That is still to be determined. I'm putting in applications right now.
It's fun. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're set. Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll move that we receive the report on Urban Roots Gardening Initiative with special thanks to all the city staff who participated, to Kevin Ella for the patience of Job as you handed out these things, and that is my recommendation.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Thanks, both of you. All right, there are no commission reports on today's agenda. Item 16 is my activities report. We're activities report of council members. Deputy Mayor Steve Goebel.
As reported with a couple of other items, the pothole challenge was just a tremendous effort on behalf of so many parts of city staff. I rode with Tony in our thing, and I said, Tony, if you're paid on commission for potholes, I owe you a lot of money because we've only done about 5 while the NBC crew was tagging along with us. But he was just a wealth of information, and I'll tell you, here is a story no one is talking about. The weight of vehicles, the electric vehicles that are going to be coming down from the state. The new mandates for commercial freight vehicles, the mandates for trash trucks, the mandates for buses. Here are some stats. The average trash truck will need to weigh 4,000 to 10,000 pounds more to accommodate the batteries needed to power the up and down cycle and all these things. They will have 4 tons less payload, which means there will be more trash trucks on the road to complete our needs. The weight of those trash trucks, 4,000 to 10,000 pounds, is going to have a toll on every single road in the county. And that's something that means heavier weights means more potholes, which means higher road maintenance. Nobody's talking about that yet. The average bus, MTS, will be 3,000 pounds more per bus. And we know that buses also have it. They're quite heavy. They're quite heavy, 40,000 pounds each. A typical Ford Transit van will be 600 pounds heavier than the gas version. And an F-150 will be 1,500 pounds heavier than the existing version. The National Transportation Safety Board Chair, Jennifer Homendy, had praise for the new electrical greenhouse gas emission goals, but she warned there will be unintended consequences, quote, more deaths on our roads because of the heavier vehicles. The Federal Highway Administration puts a limit on the amount of weight that our freight trucks can travel on the freeway. And the Motor Transportation Association says those will be 5,000 pounds heavier to accommodate for the battery and things like that. Heavier vehicle on the road means that's a potential for passenger safety, but it also is an economic thing. If I have 5,000 pounds less cargo on a freight truck, the cost for the remaining cargo goes up because now I don't have that extra 5,000 pounds of cargo on the truck. That means the cost of everything that we get by truck is going to go up, and this will be one of the unintended consequences of going fully electric. So this is something that we need to kind of start thinking about, not only the cost of our local roads, the heavier buses, the heavier freight trucks, especially the heavier trash trucks, and more of them is going to take a toll on our cost of maintaining our roads, especially potholes. Switching subjects, the city of South Pasadena up in Los Angeles, they're a city of 26,000 people, just 3.4 square miles. They are going to be the first in the city to employ a fully electric vehicle police force. By the beginning of next year, they are going to have 20 more electric vehicles for their patrol and detective vehicles. They are projecting they will just cost 10 cents a mile versus 40 cents a mile today, but be careful, they haven't included the cost of the infrastructure necessary to build that to charge these vehicles, so it's not a perfect thing. I'm more interested in the power and speed of these police vehicles compared to the other electric vehicles that are going to be on the road, and is it going to be a race between the two Teslas, or will the police ultimately have the additional power to do what they need to do? So those are two things in the world this week. Finally, the Advanced Water Purification Project out in Santee is moving along very well. It's a $950 million project affecting 500,000 people in East County. It is on budget. It's a little bit behind time because of the rains, but they are already done filling dirt, and they're now pouring concrete, 40-foot tall walls for essentially a giant aquarium for some of the wastewater as it begins to go through. Everything is looking good, and that's good news for the people of East County. It should be up in 3 years, early 2026. All litigation with the city of San Diego has been resolved, and things are moving forward. That completes my report. Thank you. Phil?
As reported.
Michelle?
As reported.
All right, there are no joint council member reports, no general information items, and no first readings on today's ordinances. We have a second reading and adoption of an ordinance on today's agenda.
I don't want to forget Mr. Kendricks and his report.
Did we forget Gary Kendrick? Oh, Gary, please.
As reported, big surprise, right?
Okay. Thank you, Counselor. We have a second reading and adoption of an ordinance on today's agenda. Item 21 is for amendment to Title V of the Municipal Code. I'll ask the city clerk to read the title. But first, Angela, are there any speaker cards for this item?
We have no speaker cards.
Please recite the title.
The title of the ordinance reads, An Ordinance Repealing Section 5.16.030 of Chapter 4, 5.16 of the El Cajon Municipal Code, adding a new Section 5.16.030 to Chapter 5.16 of the El Cajon Municipal Code, and adding a new Chapter 5.22 to Title 5 of the El Cajon Municipal Code.
Great. Okay. I guess we need to have a motion for this. Yeah, we do.
We need a motion to adopt if that's your choice.
Move to adopt.
Yeah. Second. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, we're now at closed session. The city attorney will recite the title and lead us into the closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council is going to meet in closed session on one item, and that is for a conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The agency's designated representatives are Graham Mitchell, Vince DiMaggio, Clay Shane, and Marcel Thorne. and the organization to be negotiating with, that they're negotiating with is the El Cajon Mid-Management and Professional Employees Group.
All right, then I'll make a motion to adjourn the closed session. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go to closed session, then come back very quickly to conclude the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back from closed session. I will ask our city attorney to report on the closed session.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. The City Council met in closed session on negotiation with conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, and direction was given to the city's negotiators.
This brings us to adjournment, the regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency, held this 9th day of May 2023, is adjourned until Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023 at 3 o'clock p.m. Thank you very much.